In today's video, we're looking at the entirety of Magnus Carlsen's career and looking at what chess openings for black he relied on to get him good results and strong middle game positions that he could work with. Okay, the two moves that we're going to be looking at is how does, over the entirety of Carlsen's career, how does he respond against the move of d4 and how does he respond against the move of e4. Let's start out with this move of d4. And just like we did in the previous video, talking about Magnus Carlsen's favorite chess openings for white, I want to make a disclaimer here, and that's that just because he plays certain openings doesn't mean you have to, doesn't mean you need to, doesn't even necessarily mean that you should, right? Doesn't mean that you should. Now, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't, but what really matters more than what is the top 10 players in the world playing right now. What matters more is you're playing an opening that you like and that you get good results with and that you're comfortable with, right? I personally am a big fan of combining good chess openings and rare chess openings and trying to have those two collide and mix. I've gotten great results doing that. Some of you guys really like playing kind of offbeat, not necessarily sound openings that are very rare. Some of you guys like playing very strong openings that are very popular, right? I don't really, maybe playing rare openings that are really bad is not the best idea. But I think, if you're playing a good opening, right, playing something rare, playing something popular in either case, you're not doing anything wrong, right? Play something that you like. So against the move d4 here, there's, a number of moves that we've seen here. D5 is one move that we've seen from Carlsen, but in most of his games, the large majority, knight f6 was played. Knight f6 going into an Indian game at the start. Okay, and against this move of c4, we now have some different options. Okay, now sometimes we see the move of c5 going into a Benoni Defense. Next up, we see this move of g6 going into a King's Indian, but then kind of quickly going into a Grunfeld. Okay, now by the way, I haven't made videos on every single opening necessarily, but any opening that I mention in this video that Carlsen plays that I made a video on, I will leave a link to it down in the description below. But yeah, he goes into a King's Indian just for a moment and then transposes into a Grunfeld instead of really committing with bishop g7 or d6. And here's the idea. We're actually trading off a center pawn for a flank pawn on purpose. And this is a rare idea. It's rare that we want to have this kind of thing. It's rare that we want to give up one of our central pawns so that white can have both. But we're now going to go after that center for the rest of the game, playing moves like bishop g7, playing c5, really putting pressure on that pawn. A move like knight c6 on the way. If you really study the Grunfeld theory, your opponents, much of the time, are not going to know what the heck to do with it, okay? And again, I think, Carlsen does a great job of kind of, diversifying his opening repertoire, trying different things out, doing different things. And this is something that he's talked about. He started out, he was taught as a young age to play a lot of different chess openings. He was playing stuff like Leroy Lopez. He was playing the Sicilian Defense. He was playing these openings that have totally different approaches, styles of play, history behind them, but it helped him in his overall game. Right, it helped him in positional chess. It helped him in tactical chess. It helped him in defensive chess. All that kind of stuff. Playing different chess openings. I'm not talking about over the board. I'm talking about if you're online, give different chess openings a try and try to improve at those different openings. You're going to find that your overall game improves because of it. And yes, again, against c4, right? We see the old Benoni. We see g6 going into a Grunfeld. We also see this move e6. Okay. In this case, there's a lot of different things that we could see, but e6 is the most common move that we see Carlsen go into. And against the move knight f3, often d5 was played. And this just kind of goes into a queen's gambit declined. Okay, pretty straightforward game. Another move, though, that was played surprisingly a lot is this move b6, going into a Queen's Indian Defense. Before prepping this video, I didn't even know that Carlsen played the Queen's Indian Defense on a regular basis. Against g3, he often plays bishop a6. This is a very fun line for black, attacking the pawn on c4. A ton of theory behind it. Again, I'll leave links to the videos that I've made on these openings down below. But against b3, we now have bishop b4. Okay, and all of Carlsen's opponents in the database played this move bishop d2 because he's playing against strong GM players, and they all know to play bishop d2. But when you're playing this, you might have a lot of opponents go, you know what, I don't want to trade off my bishop. I'm going to block with the knight. Here's the issue with that. We have bishop c3. We're going to take your rook unless you run away. Then we play bishop back to b7. Your rook cannot move right now. It can't, right? It can't. If we see something like, let's just say white tries queen c2 attacking our bishop, trying to get rid of it. Okay, we're going to take on f3. We're attacking this rook, so you can't just take this bishop and act like we're even. I'm going to take your rook in that case. The knight can't capture back, and once the pawn takes, okay, we're up a pawn now. We're up a pawn. Okay, great position there. What about this move of bishop g2? Okay, now we were looking at bishop e4 ideas. In this case, instead of that, we're actually going to take on d4. Whole idea being, if you take back with your knight, thank you for the bishop. We're going to take your bishop, get the heck out of there. We're winning this. Okay, so when we play that move with check, there's a lot of different ways that the opponent can go wrong. But of course, you know, Carlsen's opponents here know what they're doing. We now see the bishop drop back to e7. The reason we didn't play bishop e7 right away is because we're actually kind of okay with the bishop on d2. It's kind of awkward. It's not really helping white. We're okay with forcing that bishop into an awkward square and then dropping back. Bishop g2 is played here. We have c6 and d5, you know, played by Carlsen. And we actually have a pretty nice game here back in 2006, in which case knight bd7 is played, castling kingside, and c5 here. Right? We have the pawn cube, but with two different colors. And this can really create some complications. D takes c5 is played. We have the knight capturing back. Rook c8, eyeing the opponent's queen. Good fundamental chess there. Capturing on c4, getting the queen the heck out of there. And this is a position here where, yeah, white has a slight edge according to the engine, right? But Carlsen is good at chess. He knows what he's doing. And what he tries to do is he just tries to get into playable positions that he can work with. I mean, in the game here, we have knight fd2, capturing on c4, and now knight a4. Beautiful idea. The only move here for white, notice we're attacking the queen and the bishop. And if you, I mean, let's just say you run with the queen somewhere, we're going to take and then pin your knight. Okay, so the only good move here for white is to take off that knight. Rook takes c4 is played here. And yeah, Carlsen went on to win a very nice game in that instance. So yeah, I mean, when it comes to that move of knight f3 here, we sometimes see d5, we sometimes see b6 with this bishop a6 idea against g3 going into a queen's Indian defense. Those are just some options that we see Carlsen going with as the black side. Now, what about the move of e4? What about this position? Right now, we really see two moves. Okay, and sure, there's more, right? I mean, we have 43 games with g6, the modern defense. We have 53 games with e6 with the French. We have 57 Caro-Kanns, but overall, we have 404 Sicilian defenses and 454 e5s. So these are really the two moves that we want to look at. Let's first take a look at the move of e5, which was played the most, right? Now, this often turned into a Roy Lopez. This is very common at the elite levels of play. Knight c6 is played here. Against bishop c4, Carlsen often went into bishop c5, sometimes knight f6 too, right? Both of those moves were really solid. Bishop c5 here, going into a Gyoko piano, played 54 times. Knight f6, very close behind, 48 games with the two knights defense. Yeah, I mean, you know, in either case, they're black with a playable game. But bishop e5 is played most of the time at the elite GM level. In that case, we have a6, bishop a4, knight f6, bishop e7 here. And after rook e1, playing b5, castling kingside. Right, I'm kind of zooming through this, but this is some mainline type of Roy Lopez stuff. You know, one of the main lines that you could see. And there's different moves that white could see or white could really play here. I mean, one of them is a4. In this case, we have Carlsen playing bishop b7 9 times and playing b4 and rook b8 7 times apiece. Notice again, he's really diversifying his approaches to these kinds of positions, trying new ideas out, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't. And based on all these kind of positions, you know, not only do you learn more about chess, but depending on your mood, you can play something else, right? I've been studying opening theory like crazy. I've been playing the Hippopotamus Defense. I've been playing the Caro-Kann. I've been playing the Nimzowitsch Defense Kennedy variation. I've been playing the Scandinavian Defense. I've been playing the Charlick. That's kind of been it recently. I've been playing the Alekhine Defense a little bit as well. I've been playing the Czech Pirc, the St. George. I mean, you know, as y'all can tell, I'm a chess opening nerd, but it's kind of nice, right? Because I don't know why, but sometimes when I'm playing chess, I don't want to play the Hippo. I don't want to play the Nimzowitsch Defense, right? And I'm talking about online chess specifically. Sometimes I just want to mix things up and play something new. And when you know openings, that's a fun thing and a fun little feature that you get out of that, on top of learning ideas and really taking ideas from other openings and applying it to your own main one, which in my case is the Hippo Defense. But yeah, I mean, after c3 here, we now see what I consider to be probably Magnus Carlsen's favorite chess opening for black. I mean, we see him play this all the time. d5 going into the martial attack. Very rare that you see an opening finish with the word attack if it's played with the black side, even if it's aggressive, right? We have the King's Indian Defense, the Sicilian Defense, all that kind of stuff. It's pretty rare that black gets an attack opening. But d5 is very aggressive, and it does allow white to take on d5 and win a pawn, right? But what do we get in return? After playing this move c6, white here has 3 pieces developed, right? We have 4. Now, that's only +1. It might not seem like a big deal, but notice just how easily black can develop their pieces. The queen can develop quick. This bishop is ready to go. The rook on a8 is ready to go as well. White, on the other hand, their whole queen side hasn't moved. The bishop cannot move anywhere. The knight can only move to a3, right? I mean, white has some catching up to do in terms of developmental chess. And in the meantime, we're going to play aggressively. Now, most of Carlsen's opponents play this move d3. But if you're playing this in online chess, nearly everyone plays d4. And against that, you can play bishop d6. In this case, there's no pawn on d3 for our bishop to go after, right? So we can play queen h4 here. If g3, you can play queen h3. Let's just say h3 is played. This just shows why the martial attack for black is so dangerous. We have so much attacking pressure on the king side of the board. This king, the only piece on the king side right now is the rook. Everything else, all other 5 pieces for white are on the queen side. Let's sack on h3. And rook e5 is the only move here for white that gives them somewhat of a playable game. They're still losing there. But I mean, let's just say, for example, knight d2. We have forced mate. Bishop h2 a check. The king has to go over. Bishop g3. King goes over. Queen up. Game finishes off. Right? So, yeah, I mean, bishop d6 is a great idea there. After the move d3, we see Carlsen playing bishop d6. And against rook e1 playing bishop f5. Right? Going after that pawn on d3. This is a position where Carlsen is down a pawn, but he has good compensation for it according to the engine and a lot of active pieces. And you know, white here is a little bit uncomfortable. Black could be uncomfortable depending on your style of play. Some of you guys might like getting attacking play and being down a pawn. Some of y'all might hate being down a pawn. I'm one of those players. I think I started out more aggressive. Like I wanted to do gambits. I want to do all this kind of stuff. But when it comes to serious chess games, I don't like being down a pawn personally. Right, so we all have our playing style in that case. But all that to say, I mean, e4, e5 going to the martial attack, great opening. Let me know if you want to see a video on this. I thought about making a video on it, but I know a lot of you guys don't even play e5, so let me know if you'd be interested. If a number of you guys are, I'll make a video on that. But specifically how to play it like Magnus Carlsen. But again, the other move that we see here from him the most is c5, going into a Sicilian defense. Very aggressive opening for black. Very aggressive. Okay. Interesting, right? Sometimes from the white side, Carlsen plays a little bit more positionally, you know, and he does his black too in some instances. But, you know, a lot of these black openings are pretty aggressive, right? Even the Queen's Indian, it's very hyper-modern, very aggressive going after pawn structure. The martial attack is very aggressive, as we've seen. You know, I believe Mikhail Tal had played that move as well. I saw a thumbnail earlier today going over one of his games, in which case he played that. And then in this case, we have the Sicilian. I mean, this is arguably the most aggressive, you know, way to fight for a win that you can possibly play as black, right? Playing that move c5. Now, against knight f3, again, we see a huge variation in terms of what we see here. I mean, e6 played 55 times, d6 107, and finally knight c6 171. Let's go over all 3. First off, e6. We see this move, Carlsen here playing e6 from time to time, and after d4 capturing. And yeah, I mean, sometimes we see knight c6 here going into a Tomanov. Sometimes we see a6 going into a Kann variation. So all of you guys that play the Sicilian Kann, check out Magnus Carlsen's games. Check him out, right? I mean, if anyone's going to play it well, it's going to be him. Okay. And yeah, going back, we also have this move of d6. You know, capturing on d4, knight f6. A lot of really nice dragon games from Carlsen. We also see this move a6, technically the most, going into the Najdorf. I'm a big fan of the Najdorf. You know, Gary Kasparov played this all the time. I would say if you're trying to study the Najdorf, I would look at Gary Kasparov first and then look at Magnus Carlsen as well. But I mean, Kasparov's log of games with a6 is just incredible. And finally, the most common move we see from Carlsen, knight c6, going into an old Sicilian. In this case, playing g6, and when capturing, taking back with the d pawn, fianchettoing the bishop, throwing the knight out, and yeah, just playing some solid chess from here. I mean, in this kind of position, we've seen the move of knight d7, we've seen castling kingside, we've seen b6, a lot of the different options here, but Yeah, I think black has earned a quality, or if not a quality, extremely close to it. I do think that some of those openings for black are very, applicable depending on your style of play. Let me know what you thought of this video down below. And, this is only the second video I've done on a high level player's favorite chess openings, right? We went over Magnus Carlsen's favorite chess openings as white. And then when I say favorite, I'm talking about what is he playing the most? What is he playing the most often? And we just did this video as well. And let me know if you want to see any other players, right? Would you want to see Mikhail Tal's, favorite openings? Would you want to see Hikaru Nakamura's, right? Just name a player down below that you'd want to see what they play when things get serious. I'll see y'all in the next one. What's up, y'all? It's July of 2024. And I wanted to give a shout out to my Patreon supporters. Y'all are helping me do this full time. And if you haven't checked out the benefits that you gain by becoming a member before, I highly recommend that you go and check it out. It's a lot of fun to hang out with you guys, get to know you guys better. Those of you that join the Patreon community. And on top of that, just a quick reminder, right? If you're wanting more content like this, just a reminder to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, as well as that notification bell, so that you don't miss out on a video coming your way. And again, I appreciate y'all. I'll see y'all soon. Peace.